Hey guys, welcome to another Ziz Podcast Live AMA featuring Project PT. PT, thank you so much for joining.
Well, hello everybody.
So, for those of you who don't know Project PT, he has played Path of Exile for quite a long time. Some changes happened, so he has been playing World of Warcraft, right?
Yeah, in World of Warcraft, I was actually playing some Nier recently, but that game didn't tickle my pickle.
Oh, nice. And so you've been trying out both like vanilla servers and like the new Blizzard ones, right?
Correct, yeah.
Cool. So, like, how's that been? Like, have you been enjoying World of Warcraft?
Well, yes and no. Like, World of Warcraft, at least in terms of its Legion content, actually plays a lot like an ARPG. Rather than running a map, you're running a dungeon over and over
Mm-hmm.
and similar. Vanilla, well, private servers aren't really vanilla, so that gets a bit annoying, to be honest. Like, they're
Cool.
close, but there's some pretty big flaws.
Yeah. Do you miss Path of Exile at all, or
No.
fair? Have you been looking at any other changes at all that are coming to Path of Exile?
I've had changes harassed at me through various
Yeah.
degrees. And so have I gone through the post specifically myself to kind of check out the fine details? No, but people mention this and then what I think of like the energy shield stuff. So
Yeah, the
a couple.
energy shield stuff has been quite severe. A lot of people have actually been saying, wow, this might bring PT back. So, I don't know. You might want to take a look at the changes at some point. Could be pretty interesting for you.
No, but I'll wait till the end because it's one thing to get excited by a change here or there, but you need to know the fine details at the end before you can really know if the changes are what you're looking for,
Yeah.
or anything else is just you're speculating for whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
So we're gonna open up with some of the questions from Reddit now, and the first one is pretty apt to what we were just talking about. Bave OS is wondering, is there any possibility that Project PT will also return for 3.0? He was not happy about the game going in a non-hardcore direction. Has your opinion changed after the latest 3.0 reveal?
No, just in the end, there might be some fine tuning that would interest me, but as of now, nothing that's been presented has piqued my interest to any degree.
Cool. So you're waiting for like after the beta and seeing like all the large changes, then deciding if you want to come back?
One of the major things that would be the factor is the difference of power between the player and the enemy mobs, and there's been no note of if that's being changed or to what degree. So,
Yeah, well, that seems like something that will be changing. That's what a lot of people are worried about, especially for the casual player. Like,
exactly, and until we know the values,
yeah,
yeah. So as of now, that information hasn't presented. So with the information that's been presented, no.
cool. Well, that's interesting then. So I'll be actually expecting you back, surprisingly enough.
You are naive sometimes. Hopeful.
Hopeful. That's it. I'm
Blindly hopeful.
optimistic.
All right,
Optimistic.
we'll use that word.
The next question is by Dokin. If you had to fight one PoE streamer barehanded to death, who would that be and why?
Rise QT, because I thought he was a lot shorter. And then I learned how large he is, and I remember seeing a picture of him in a gi or something, and I used to do jujitsu, so I want to fight him.
Okay, cool. Was that like something you decided while you thought he was short or because he's bigger?
No, because I underestimated him, so I
Ah.
deserve to die by his hands.
Okay, no, that's fair. I like that. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna pass that on, and we're gonna see if we can like. I don't know. I might have to like stream it on different sites. I don't know if like a fight to the death is something I can stream on Twitch, but I would love to be broadcasting that and
You
commentating.
just edit the death part, and then it's just a
All
normal
right.
fight.
Yeah. Okay. No, we can try
Exactly.
that. I'm excited. We'll set that up. Um, Preen P is asking if we could go back in time, which patch, league, state would you like to play the most again in Path of Exile?
Probably 1.1. Like, anything pre 2.1's got some really annoying stuff in terms of servers, but having a sense of being hunted by the invasion mobs
Mhm.
was always interesting. It wasn't perfect. It definitely had some issues. Like, as soon as you killed the invasion mob, the map was a joke, and you would have to gear yourself so that you could handle the invasion mobs, which meant that everything else
Yeah.
was kind of meaningless. But I liked being hunted.
No, I get that. I see a lot of people relate to that as well. Would you say Ascendancy was probably the largest place where the power creep went too crazy?
It's always very hard to say with where, like, how much happens at one time because, sure, I would like to say ascendancy for very fucking obvious reasons, but then you have to remember the Forsaken Masters being able to craft items. Like, you didn't go into maps with your proper resists, you had to have rings on and switch them because you didn't get these try resist plus health as baseline. So, as much as Ascendancy gave a huge amount of power, an absolute ridiculous amount of power, the biggest power probably came in Forsaken Masters.
Hmm. Fair enough. I would have gone if anyone asked me that question, I would have said Ascendancy. So it's interesting.
It's a close second,
Yeah.
but I'm sure we could break all the numbers down into a spreadsheet. So,
Yeah, I saw a lot of people say they missed that. Like, obviously, you helped a lot of newer players, especially at the end of the league, preparing for the next league. Do you ever miss doing that, like helping people with the builds and stuff and spreadsheets?
yes and no. I enjoy playing around with the passive tree. Now, I didn't pay attention to how much in the last patch the passive tree changed, if at all. Like, if it was significant, I don't know.
No, I didn't.
But yes, so it would be pumping out more or less the same thing.
Yeah.
So was it interesting? Yes. There's a reason I quit because it was no longer interesting.
Yeah, like apparently Bex has been teasing that the tree is going to change tomorrow. We're going to get some changes, so I'm hoping it'll be changed up a lot, but we'll see.
Well, the Valpac location better change, or else that's gonna be awkward
I
as
want
shit.
I want Valpark like completely removed, but
I wouldn't mind it.
yeah. Balance Master is saying, what do you think about Path of Diablo?
Path of Diablo's been mentioned a lot to me. I haven't taken a good look at it. It seems like a more hardcore, difficult experience in the ARPG, but it doesn't either seem to like do anything interesting beyond that. So it
They've
doesn't have
added
a hook or a gimmick that I've seen.
Well, they've added like endgame maps and stuff like that now, and they're like bringing an actual endgame system to it, which they're expanding on. So, especially since you like harder MMOs or harder ARPGs, it might be something to
Hmm.
look into. It's a lot
Well,
harder than Diablo.
yeah, if I'm currently kind of curious of what's happening in the Tomb of Sargeras, which is the WoW patch, and if that raid turns out to shit, then I'll probably check out Path of Diablo or some other RPG related games.
Cool. Is there any other ARPGs you are looking forward to?
No, all the RPGs that I see are alpha, beta, and I
Yeah,
don't give a shit about alpha or beta. I'm tired of alpha and beta.
yeah, and early access stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying. I feel like too many games just get stuck on early access.
Yeah, here's a thought: complete the game, then sell it. Bold move.
Yeah. The next question is by Stagnant Soul. How has it been playing retail WoW, and how does it compare to your experience on the vanilla servers?
Uh, so the vanilla servers, in comparison, the vanilla servers are not stable. They're not, even if a server is Blizz-like, if you're familiar with vanilla content, they aren't exactly. It's some rounding errors, let's say. Legion does some things really well, and which the high-end raid content, and I came into it actually expecting to just bash it for a while and then move to a new game. But I remember players like Nugi, who really enjoyed the Mythic content when he was playing it. Lifting Nerdbro enjoyed raiding for the content that was available. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let's do the grind. Let's get all the way to Mythic content. And the high Mythic dungeons, the high Mythic raids, is actually very well done. Everything else is awful. Just awful.
No.
Whereas in vanilla, I enjoy the leveling process. I enjoy the world PvP. I enjoy the importance of gear. It's not as expendable. So one's good at the start, the other's good at the end.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It would be good to have like a nice combination of the two. I remember playing WoW back when I was like 17, 18, and I would do like countless hours just doing endgame in vanilla.
Yeah, but it's a different beast. It almost seems like they should just be two different games. Make a instance-based
Hmm.
raiding style cooperation event, and then build a like D&D adventure style game.
Yeah,
There's no point of both of them being in the same game.
I get that. Big Bollocks is asking, do you think WoW has a more challenging endgame than Path of Exile?
Yeah, if you're talking about the absolute endgame of Path of Exile being, I guess Shaper fight or some kind of ridiculous uh, Hall of the Grandmaster's role that would just fuck over most builds in a second. Um, think about the Shaper mechanics.
Mhm.
Ignore the mini bosses for a moment. You've got the giant laser, which is pretty easy to dodge. It's a long time. Really, the thing that's going to fuck you up is when there's two of them and you get bad luck with the slam.
Mhm.
That's kind of the crux point. And then there's also if the slam glitches or you're out of the beam and game error deaths. So your tactic is move left, move right. Look at the Gul'dan fight, and then realize you're not just dependent on your skill, you're dependent on 20 other people or 19 other people. Even if you have 90% success rate, 10 people, that's a large fail rate. So
Yeah,
the
but
majority of WoW is easy. Almost all of it's easy, but there's 3 fights that are fun.
that's fair. But you also don't have like the hardcore option in World of Warcraft. You can't try over and over again.
Well, yeah, but you do the same thing over and over. ARPGs have never been harder games. I never liked ARPGs because they're the most difficult games that exist.
Mhm.
They are rewarding not in their difficulty exactly, as in their punishment for error. Like, there's no comparison between
Yeah,
the
that's
hardcore
fair.
error versus WoW, and that's something that is fun to feel that your character is worth something because if you fuck up your character is suddenly worth less.
So is that something you would say you miss from like not playing games like that anymore?
Well, there's roguelikes that do things like that. I'm probably going to play some XCOM
Oh, nice.
2. The other games do capture it, but yeah, I like losing a lot. Like I like death meaning something in a video game.
Yeah,
That's something I enjoy.
that's my favorite part as well, especially with things like EVE Online, Darkfall, where you lose everything.
Have you played Eve?
Yeah, for like 3, 4 years.
I never played that game. Everyone says I'd like it, but
I think you would, yeah.
just never jumped into it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's a game you would like, especially with the loss aspect and stuff.
Yeah, you lose everything.
Yep.
Have fun.
It's very cutthroat as well. People will screw you over left, right, and center, so that's extra fun. Alu's asking, do you miss PoE? I mean this in terms of withdrawal from something you have gotten used to for so long.
Not specifically. Have I ever had an interest to check the new leak or the patches? No. Have I jumped onto the PoE Reddit? The first time I did was when you linked me the AMA discussion.
Hmm.
Have I thought about the game? Yes, because people come in hard. I've had no interest or inclination in it. It's not a game that has an element for me at the moment.
Fair. Um, let's see. The next question is, well, the next question we sort of know the answer to, but I'll ask it anyway. Penguin for the
All
next
right.
asking, have you read the upcoming balance changes, and what do you think about the balance changes for 3.0 with the damage over time and energy shield? So you don't know much about them, but basically the damage over time is being like double dipping is being removed in the next
Yeah,
patch.
it was mentioned double dipping's removed.
Yeah,
Energy shield is being nerfed 33%.
sort of, but
Ish.
well, the bases are being nerfed. It's the values on percentages are being nerfed by 33%, and the
Okay.
ring energy shield is being completely removed, and Valpack for energy shield is being completely removed.
And Ghost Reaper is having a penalty to the leech rate?
Something like that. You get higher ES
Maybe.
recharge.
Asterisk.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Zealot's Oath might be reworked. We don't know yet. They've said that might change. So it's quite heavy changes.
But they're also adding a hybrid life armor or life evasion roll
Yeah,
onto, and then potentially playing around with those. So there's a lot of unknown. It's just there's a significant nerfed energy shield.
yeah.
There's
Oh,
uh
and Reflect and Volatile is being reworked. So it
oh yeah.
basically sounds like they're making the game harder and like nerfing our total effective HP is what most people are guessing at.
The final thing is hard to say because then the question is, are they adjusting the enemy values?
Hmm.
And we're assuming they are. So if they're changing them, that information is meaningless to us. If they aren't changing things, then we can accurately assess it. Now, the one thing is assuming mobs aren't changed is when the energy shield topic came up over and over again, the statement I always made is, I want life to be nerfed. I want energy shield to be nerfed as well and significantly harder, but life-based builds are too strong. They don't compare to energy shield builds, but I played a life-based build also, and nothing really touches it. There's a couple things that can one-shot it, but they're very avoidable. So that's not, they're things made to one-shot you anyways, so it's not a problem. So with life being buffed, no, I don't like those changes. No.
Fair enough. I actually think the life buff is sort of okay, especially if they're keeping mobs the same or making them slightly stronger with the new base type of mobs coming.
Yeah, if they increase the mob's damage, then it's a different kettle of fish, and we have no idea until we actually kind of see the maps and the mob types. Because there's also going to be a ton of new mob types. Are there new mob abilities with those types, or are they just going to be filler stuff? You have a choice. Do you like it in general, or you dislike it in general? You're going to believe whatever camp you believe in, because you'll just assume that the new content will follow your belief. Well done, fantastic, meaningless question.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm in camp positivity, so I'm expecting the game's going to be harder.
Be nice if that happens.
Yeah, hence why I think he'll be back. Ashia is asking, without overthinking it, how can an ARPG developer make the game more accessible to the masses while keeping the hardcore community happy?
As long as you're still targeting like the ARPG genre, there's different elements of hardcore, and this is, well, I'm going to overthink it. I'm not a racer. Many people can quite easily say that the hardcore element of Path of Exile is the speed of accomplishment, in which case I would not fall into that category. I fall into the category of the mechanical information. That's what interests me. I like numbers. There's numbers. Let me play. So realistically, you're going to have something that can reward casual players and reward hardcore players, and make it so that both need each other. So there's something specific in the game. Hypothetical example, okay, hardcore players are the people who want to hit level 100. People get a little, even some of the most hardcore players get a little bit annoyed at the very high-end grind because, well, you've accomplished the task, now you're just doing a chore, and you enjoy it 2 degrees because of the loop. Okay, make it so that there's a tier of map that gives a ridiculous amount of experience, is extremely difficult, so chances of surviving this map is unlikely, and therefore in softcore you lose experience, and no loot. So this is a very expensive thing. Then you put this, the currency for spawning this, in some kind of loot parade, dried leg-ish thing that's experience is terrible, but it has good loot. So softcore player or casual players can do their little casual grind, get something valuable for endgame players. Endgame players have to spend their currency, understand the economy, do that, take high risk to get the experience boost required to be the elite.
And with that
Something
logic,
like that.
do you like things like Uber Zeri, and if there was a Uber Shaper, Uber Chayula, things like that? So then you have like the easier versions for the softer player, and you have like the Uber Zeri for the more hardcore dedicated player.
Well, one thing I actually liked about the design of the Shaper fight is they didn't put an easier version in it. I thought that was a good thing about it. You know, you don't, because I didn't do Shaper fight, I did do the Uber Zeri fight, but when I did the Uber Zeri fight, I just did Zeri enough times that I'm like, yeah, I know the fight mechanically in and out, I can do it. It's kind of like doing a softcore character completing the task, then doing a hardcore character completing the task. Well, you already proved that you could do it. That's not, it was just going through the motions.
Fair enough. I am actually like the opposite. I love the fact that there's like a harder version and a soft version you can practice on. And then suddenly you have like a whole new game when you get to the harder version.
I think if they're going to like do harder versions, just add in at least one mechanic, not just slightly larger increase area effect and slightly harder timing, like the Zero to Uber Zero. Just one more skill, so that there's something to it.
Something that surprises you the first time, especially. Yeah, I get that. The next question is by Nate of 88. Do you have any tips or recommendations for growing a full, luscious beard?
Do fuck all. That's all you gotta do. Fuck all.
So, like, how long have you been growing your beard?
Well, I cut my beard like last week. I trimmed my beard. This isn't like full length. So, I don't know. I can't grow my sides. Like I'm one of those people who can't get the sides at all, so I just get this goatee-ish thingy.
Me too.
But
I can only grow one side as well. It's terrible.
and the worst part is when you try, because you're like,
Yeah.
maybe now it works. So you try and you're like, ah, it looks like someone shaved their pubes and glued it to my face. Let's shave that off.
Yeah, I can't grow my left at all, and I want
Yeah.
to. It's terrible. I hate it. So here's probably a question, and I really like. I'm hoping you'll somehow tell us. This is a question
Right.
I want. As soon as I saw your name, I was like, "What does it?"
Is
So
it PT stand for?
Nose 18 is asking, "What does PT stand for?" And besides WoW, is there another game you would want to stream?
You don't get to know what PT stands for unless you
No,
guess.
come on. Oh no, come
I
on.
had a document, all right. So it was just like, there's an acronym. If someone guesses it, I'll say it's yes. I made a document online, anyone can open it and edit it, but you know what the internet does with an openly edited document, so that went to shit. And so now it's just,
Pterodactyl.
no.
Damn it.
I just tell people it stands for can't spell.
Everybody thinks Portugal, but that clearly can't be it because that's been guessed a million times.
Yeah. If it's really fucking obvious to you, realize that that's not it.
It's a chemical compound, no?
No hints.
No hints! Oh my god.
You won't get it.
No, I don't
That's
think I
fine.
will. Besides WoW, is there a game you want to stream?
Like video games right now are a little bit awkward. Like I like RPGs, and I tried Nier recently because as it was showcased, it seemed quite interesting. But RPGs aren't really focusing on the stat elements recently, and so I just keep kind of nibbling at some RPG that someone mentions that's not in alpha pre-beta, but they're quite shallow recently. So there's nothing been grabbing my attention. As I said, XCOM 2, if like Tomb of Sargeras, check that out, XCOM 2, and then hope some kind of people have been saying Lost Ark and yelling that one at me,
Yeah.
or some what was the other Ash of Creation, but that's pre-alpha, and I'm like, why the fuck are you mentioning a pre-alpha game to me?
Yeah.
I don't give a shit.
I don't know. People get too excited about pre-alphas.
Yeah, like pre-alpha, that's I've written something on a napkin. Just
Napkin game.
don't bother.
Concept. Yeah. So when does the Tomb of Sargeras thing start?
5 or 4 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Usually they have loads of commercials out.
Well, they did something weird with. I don't know what the fuck Blizzard's doing. They're just as retarded. Like they did a pre-patch for the expansion for like catching up your stats, but then they made a release event that was like over a period of 2 months to the actual patch, and I'm just like, what? All right, whatever. Stupid.
So here's one question. There was something you said there that just made me think about it. So I don't know if you'd agree with this, but I would say that every streamer has like a certain amount of like an act they put on when they stream, like either if it's subconsciously or not, but like you're not like 100% how you would be on your own when you're sitting in your own room, right? So how much would you say is like you as a person, and how like what percentage would you say is like different when you're streaming?
Well, yeah, I would agree that everyone puts on some form of act, but it's not streaming that does that. If you hang out with a certain group of individuals, you will act differently than others.
Yeah.
And then again, when you're doing, I'm going to say entertainment, you can bug me on that. You're trying to entertain people to a degree while also judging your audience. You interact with certain people different ways.
Yeah.
Even within your own stream, you have certain people, you read their name and you're like, oh, hey, yeah, you. And other people, you're just like, oh, hi. I'm more of an asshole and cynical in real life than I am on my stream. I have to tone it down on my stream because people are bitches.
Wow.
And believe me or not, I don't care. It's the internet. Have fun.
I didn't know that was possible. No, I'm just kidding. That's so like what if you had to put it into percentages?
50%.
Cool.
Well,
chat like that, so that's good.
Well, think about it this way. Even if you are fine with cynical stuff, what's the odd of a cynical or a dark humor working with 2 friends that you're hanging out with?
For sure.
They know you, right? They know what a joke is. They know what you're joking about. You've got 100, 200,000, 2,000 people in front of you. not going to work.
So you're kind of like the Dread Thicket. You're always 50%.
Exactly. Always 50%. Half mass.
So EP Sped is wondering, what did you do before streaming, education/work?
I did tutoring. Like when I went to Portugal, I went there tutoring. I tutored before I went to Portugal. I did electrical engineering. Uh, didn't finish the electrical engineering, converted into the Masters of Science, and because I didn't want to do the PN stuff, as it wouldn't transfer over to European stuff, and then I just took a job to build finance so that I could go to Europe,
So,
and I did debt collection.
oh, cool. So where are you
For
originally from?
Canada, British
And
Columbia. Well, born in Quebec, but British Columbia.
do you speak French at all then, or?
No, no, I'm incompetent with languages. Absolutely shit at
So
them.
what made you want to move to Portugal? Like, can you tell us more about the Portugal thing?
I had you develop odd friendships playing online games, and I actually had a cluster of friends that were in Portugal, and they knew enough people that I could do some tutoring. I could start something,
Hmm.
just temp to potentially go long term or short term. So you got it. How would I say this? I was at the point where it's like, okay, I don't have any financial responsibilities. I don't have any long-term relationships or stuff like that. So you don't always get those opportunities to
Yeah,
just kind of pick up and go. And it was like, fuck it, why not? See what happens. Nothing more, nothing less.
that's pretty cool. And have you been home to Canada since? And how long have you been in Portugal?
Like 2.5 years? I don't remember exactly how long.
Have you?
I haven't been home since.
All right. Do you
Not
miss
yet.
Canada?
Oh yeah, the weather, like it snows awesome. Portugal doesn't have snow.
Really? I fucking hate snow. That's so cool to hear someone actually likes it.
Snow's amazing.
Or
It's the best.
the worst.
The sun can fuck off.
Really? It's like I want just like a nice like middle. I want like Norway temperature and summer, but then all the year. I don't want winter. Winter can go away. Snow is dance game. Um, Altai's asking, what do you like the most about Portugal?
Pastel de nata.
Hmm?
It's a pastry.
Oh,
They have really nice pastries, but there's one it's pastel de nata. I got a keychain with it on. I just have one whenever I can. It's amazing, amazing pastry.
and do you plan to stay in Portugal for a long time?
Well, there's always visa paperwork and all that
Hmm.
that's limiting, but I don't. Long-term plans are always iffy.
Yeah.
So
Like, can you see yourself naturalizing there, or?
I'd have to work a little bit more in the language. I'm not, as I mentioned, I'm not good with them, but I like Portugal. Whether or not long-term, we'll see.
Do you speak Portuguese at all? Like, how much have you picked
No,
up?
I can do a lot more of the reading of it, but the speed of colloquial language is very difficult, and so when you're dropping like the consonants at the end of
Hmm.
the words and the little phrasings, it becomes very difficult from a conversational side. Reading technical language,
Hmm.
non-literature, I can get through, and then if there's any contextual clues, like watching the news, is a lot. It's
Hmm.
pretty fine.
Do you take like lessons or anything like every week, or?
No, just basically doing what I can to socialize with other people,
Hmm.
and I've got a couple books that I can do practicing exercises. But
Oh, cool. I ended up with so many like Brazilian Portuguese viewers that I started learning like Bem-vindo ao meu canal, which apparently means welcome to my channel.
one of the things that's annoying is it's like UK and American English. There's differences between Portuguese and Brazilian. The Brazilian Portuguese is much more dominant due to population size, which means a lot of the internet tools for Portuguese languages are Brazilian but not notified for it. So there's some funny things.
All right. And so you said you were bad with languages, but have you ever
Yeah.
tried learning any other language?
Shouldn't you know the answer to that question?
It's probably no then, isn't it?
Well, what am I trying to learn right
No,
now?
any other language besides
Oh,
that.
I thought you meant other than English. I was
No.
just like,
You're clearly trying
what?
to learn Portuguese right now. I meant any other, like German,
Yeah, that's why I
French.
thought it was a stupid question.
No, I'm not that dumb.
Well, it's the internet. You just assume all the things.
I guess.
No, not right now. At one point in time, I tried learning French, but I I gave up on that.
Cool. And do your parents speak any different languages? You mentioned you grew up or was born in Quebec.
Yeah, my father's first language was French. He
Hmm.
didn't speak English natively, and so he, yeah.
Cool.
So both my parents, one fluent in French, the other half.
Conan the Librarian is asking, if you could design your own ARPG, what would it be like? How hard would it be, and in what ways?
Ah, that's a really large question.
Just give some cliff notes.
Design a game.
Just casually design a game, dude. We're here for the next 54 hours now. No, like use like a napkin version on a paper.
What? So, all right. How about you're unless you're going to want me to talk for 3 hours, like you need a foundation of like what game would you take and how would you adjust it. Path of Exile did something really great, in which is they took the RPG foundation that everyone's been using in Diablo 2
Hmm.
and expanded it upon their gear crafting system, which I think is a great addition to the ARPG genre. Now, one of and their passive tree. The passive tree, though a bit stagnant for some of the veteran players, is still one of the better things, and it does seem to take a lot of homage from like Titan Quest, for example. And there's other examples, but that was my experience.
Hmm.
Now, going from there, one of the things that I remember being promised when you're reading about the game was the skill link system. And this is where Path of Exile never succeeded. And it was you'd have a skill, and then you modify it with your links. And so, what I would want to see in an RPG is one where the skill is a lot more customizable, not this, yeah, these are the links you put in, and there's basically no choices to that. Any other choice is more or less incorrect.
Hmm.
From there, as in difficulty, one of the things that I found a lot in also doing other RPGs and other RPG elements is I don't think leveling is as predominantly important in modern gaming than it has been in classical gaming. Because leveling, when you had little games, it was something to pad game time, which is important when you have a smaller selection of games and less competitors. Now that we have things, you look at when people die or have to re-roll, there's an importance to leveling, but the padding time seems a little bit incorrect. I want to see a challenge gate orientated thing. Here's a hard map. You complete the hard map, you can do the next tier of hard map, which is a large jump. And then if you die, you have to restart and go through the challenges and adjust your build. So I think the leveling, there needs to be a system of progress that you can feel. Stat upgrades, it's an RPG, but this, who cares, 1 to 70, throw on gear because you have the level requirement, go 70 to 85, and then you've started the game, doesn't make sense anymore.
Fair enough. It sounds like you would have a hard game then.
I like Dark Souls.
Yeah.
I like Dark Souls, I like Ninja Gaiden. What more do you need to know?
That's true. So something a lot of people have been asking about is you really enjoyed playing solo self-found before the game mode was being added. So a lot of people are surprised that you weren't like more excited that they actually added proper solo self-found as a game mode.
Well, I think this is one where people like to maybe take a little bit more interpretation. Someone that was in my channel that would ask, the question comes up about solo self-found. I don't think solo self-found is good for Path of Exile. This was one of the things where I got accused of wasting development time for this, but my stance on solo self-found is I don't think it's good. If I'm playing an online game, I want to play with other people. Like, give me offline then. Why I played solo self-found is because it was a relatively, simple challenge without, putting in all these asterisks and rules. Anuhart, which is a streamer that I watched, has played the game for a long, long time, and I was just like, well, he's clearly, getting longevity from this process. I have a problem that trade allows too much power acquisition per period of time. Let's try out solo self-found. And the restrictions and what you could and couldn't do with a build, you can't just, this unique, boom, I'm done. That was entertaining in the sake of that it was a difference. I don't think it's better for Path of Exile. I don't want to see the solo self-found, well, it's in the game. I don't want to see it. I don't care for it. I would like party play to not be graphical cancer.
Yeah.
But it is.
Yeah, I think I've heard so many people say that like they want to play party play, but obviously with all the graphics that is a bit of a problem.
Well,
Something I wish they would let us
you on your
tone down.
stream was you on your stream just before that I was watching. Like after all the patches about improvements, you said, "I'm not running a Burning Ground map. That's the most dangerous map," because they still haven't fixed that.
Yeah, that's actually all the graphics changes and stuff have been amazing the last two times. Like they've been like real big optimization changes. Like the game runs so much smoother now. But Burning
Mhm.
Ground just makes me pull my hair out. I don't get why it's still in the game until you fix it. Sure, fix it, but just remove it until you fix it. It's terrible. I used like 3 chaos just earlier on one map just because of Burning Ground. No other mod on it, just Burning Ground 2 times in a row and like
And yeah, it's odd that they're keeping a problematic thing in. Just okay, you like it, remove it, fix it. I agree with that, but you know, things.
yeah, and the thing is, like, even if they do fix it, like regardless, like, I think it was New Gear Rise that was like, but even if they fix it, who's gonna be happy about it? It's like, yay, they fixed my favorite map mod, Burning Ground, yee. So it's
Well, that's
like,
why just disable it. Like,
yeah,
who's like, it's if you can handle the FPS, it's a free mod. No one's like, oh man, I have to play differently. There's a burning ground in this map.
exactly. You don't notice it.
So yeah, just disable it.
Yeah,
But you know, how many years have we, and they haven't decided that's a possible solution?
yeah, it kills me. Other than that, the balance changes have been amazing, and like the latest launch, Legacy launch, was like super stable, which I am like very impressed with because, as you know, like for any game launch, like launches
Mhm.
are usually problematic, but there's no crashes, which was crazy.
Well, they've been in general a lot better with launches. Launches are like there was obviously certain hiccup. Actually, no, wasn't there a big problem with the breach? I'm trying to remember. What did there might have been
Parandas was the worst one.
Miranda's was shit. I didn't play the first week or so because that was just like nope.
Yeah, the good thing is that they learned a lot from it, so like I'm
Mhm.
hoping the next Oriath thing is gonna be amazing.
Well, I would assume so. Like the amount of effort, the amount of, press release, the amount
Yeah.
of new eyes on it, like cocking that up is just nonsense.
Yep. So
But so is
speaking
Burning Ground.
speaking of Oriath, Jarabino is asking, what are your thoughts on the new acts, 5 to 10?
I don't care. I don't care about Act 4. I don't care about Act 3. I don't care about Act 2. I don't care about Act 1. Why would I care about the rest?
So you only care about
It's,
Endgame then, if you were playing Path of Exile.
well, I'm not playing Path of Exile for Act 2 normal. It's so a more elaborate answer is it going to be a nice, refreshing experience for players when they're getting into? Yeah, of course it's going to be nice and refreshing. But people said the same thing about Act 4. Did that solve the leveling problem? No. And sure, there's going to be 10 acts, but half of the acts are repetitions of slightly different visuals. Is that enough? Like they are updated. There's different paths,
I
and
think you
I
will be,
did check
yeah.
that. No, no, I won't. Why would I give a shit?
Because
Like,
a lot of people's problem is that it's the same exact thing repeating three
yeah, a
times.
lot of people. You didn't ask, do
That's
I
true.
think it's going to
That's
be
true.
good for the game? You asked me.
That's
Do I
true.
think it? Yeah, it's going to sell copies. It's going to be good for the games, and I think a lot of people don't play ARPGs because having 3 acts is kind of like the leveling thing we talked about before. It's artificial padding. In the modern gaming era, that's an excuse of being lazy with the work.
Hmm.
Now, I don't think Path of Exile did it initially as an excuse to be lazy. I think they did it as a homage to D2. That makes sense. So, is it good for all the people that won't play a game because they get to the end and then they're like, wait, I just played the same thing? They're not getting a proper
Yeah.
introduction to Endgame if they're not familiar with the workings of an ARPG. So that's good. The negative connotation that can, let's say, that I've never seen mentioned once is you're bringing in a new audience. You're specifically targeting the audience that can't deal with the repetition of repeating acts. And you think this is going to be good because you're bringing in people who can't deal with repetition? Good luck with that one. See how long that works.
I suppose the entire game is repetition once you get endgame, so yeah, that'll be
Yep.
interesting. Um, have you seen anything about the new Pantheon system at all?
Uh, very, very early. There was only like 2 that were briefly mentioned. There was the one that prevents stun and freeze if you have been frozen, one that prevents high spike damage that they didn't give any kind of values
Yeah.
on. Yeah, I don't know if there's been like more info on it.
No, I think that's pretty much all we have on the Pantheon system, at least that I can remember. Do you, is that something you're excited about, or would you be more worried about power creep?
It's power creep. How is it not power creep?
Okay.
Now, and also there's the weird thing is they mentioned that it was more fluid. You could change it
Mm-hmm.
easily, but not they didn't elaborate on that. Like Skyforce, look at the price of Skyforce, the desire of it. Skyforce worked for a certain build. Let's assume CI is relevant. That might not be the case, but you have a new thing that is not a cost because it's not a boot. You're not replacing an item. You are just purely gaining this.
Mm-hmm.
That it doesn't give you the power charge of the reserve, but it gives you Kiara's flask. That's
Mm-hmm.
a lot.
Yep.
But once again, how is it the introduction of the new content in relationship to the modification of the mobs? One of the huge problems when Ascendancy was released, they didn't change the content.
Yeah.
That was a problem.
Yeah, that's probably the main reason why I feel like Ascendancy was such a big power creep compared to even Forsaken Masters, because we just got so much added for free with no other alternative, so...
Yeah, it would have made a lot more sense to see Ascendancy with the Atlas changes because there was a lot that changed in terms of the top end difficulty with mapping.
Hmm.
And then at the same point in time, then they could have been an excuse of like, if the numbers were off, it's just like, oh, we increased player power and monster power. Yeah, things are obviously off a bit. We'll adjust it in the next patch. So they would have had an out. But they were just like, here's an idea. Let's make everyone gods and not change enemy mobs. Don't see how this is a problem.
Yeah, it just depends on like what type of audience they want to attract. Obviously, players like you prefer being the underdog, and then some people want
Yeah,
to feel like
are
a
you
god.
playing power fantasy versus,
Pretty nitty
being hunted?
survival. Yeah. Unknown user is asking, what shampoo do you use?
Whatever one I grab. I don't have a preference. If there's one on sale, I'll pick it up.
Serotonin89 is asking, what would you change in Path of Exile that would make it the best game as a Saundra, and you can only make 3 changes?
The link system actually being meaningful and creating a different way that you're going through the content rather than just, the current links, it's more or less a damage improvement. The second one would be, when you're saying best in the genre, what's your audience? Depending on your target audience, the decision is better. So all I can really say is a better game for me. That would give a degree of customization. Then when you're playing a Fireball build, it could potentially not look like almost every other Fireball build. Don't you want your skill selection is not where it needs to be. That's a problem. Make melee not suck would be nice. I don't know if something drastically changed, but the melee as a downside for no good reason right now.
They're
And
doing a massive change to Cyclone. I don't know if you've seen that.
again, I thought they increased the range so that it was a bit
They're
retarded, but
changing the entire way it works so you can't like bump into items and stuff and like things on the ground.
that's nice. I remember a lot of people were surprised when because they did the thing with like glacial cascade, so I had that really good pathing, but they didn't do that with other skills because there's something weird about their skill design. But so the gem system to make it so there's more elaboration would be nice. For myself, I would definitely like PvP focus, but that's not the current audience. People would hate that. So the crafting would be the other thing. Now, the problem with the crafting right now, you get a situation where your items are life, soon to be hybrid life, flat, defense, and then resist, resist, resist on most pieces. Swap that for energy shield where relevant. That's that makes it so that you get your uniques, and they've done some pretty creative unique design that gets overshadowed by blatantly powerful uniques, but there's not much flexibility. I remember Essences had some very interesting properties that were overshadowed by the energy shield roll they decided to put on.
Yep.
So the crafting needs to be creative. Like it would be nice if there were more unique properties that would allow your adjustment rather than just inflating your base defensive stats so that you can stack all your offense into your gems and steamroll the content. And you build the stats are not as in depth as people like to say they are. They're pretty fucking standard.
Mm-hmm. So you would want more things like the rare essences then, like the delirium, insanity, horror.
Well, yeah, like imagine you get different problems. Like when I was watching you do some content, which was the only PoE content I've watched since I quit. And, one of the videos I remember you doing fairly early on when you were finding your ground in streaming was about looting.
Yep.
How people, and I'm known for looting everything. I don't give a shit. I loot because that's what I'm interested. I like the RPG elements, but in terms of time, you have this weird situation where killing faster gives you more loot, and then gives you more experience. So you're getting the two resources of the game that exist. But imagine you take a situation where with essences, for reference, where any of these essences could roll on an item, just a very low chance. Now there's a difference between skipping over everything because you're like, well, I'm not looting this because there's no way this could be valuable.
Mm-hmm.
That changes if there's a very rare, unique property that could roll on a rare item.
Yeah.
And if you make players have to or desire to loot, you slow them down without making the enemy stronger, without taking player power, because the loot time, and that's the thing you want to point out, that most players waste their time with loot when getting EXP and items per period of time. Anytime you're wasting loot is one time you're not killing a mob, which is that mob not dropping something valuable. So incentivize people wasting their time, but creativity in a creative manner.
I like that. I definitely feel like we don't pick up enough rares. I remember and most new players as well will be picking up and looting everything, and I used to as well. Then I remember I started watching like Havoc and Ito play, and I was like, wow, I'm playing the game wrong. And then I started looting nothing. I was like, oh, this is so much better. Just don't loot anything.
But you're playing an ARPG about
exactly.
loot rolls where you're not looting anything.
For sure. And you were talking about melee earlier. Something like I personally feel is a problem with melee is, do you feel like the only way to make melee viable is to make it AoE? Like, up the entire screen, basically?
It's something I know I've mentioned before. People try to acquire everything. They want your character to be able to do everything. Well, then what can something else do? All right, melee is a definition. It's a range. It's a melee. So how do you have something that casters don't have? Because if they have similar damage input, like damage, I checked your stream, is still at a point where it is far beyond the requirements of mob health. Mm-hmm. This means that if I can one-shot something in melee range, why is that and then one-shot it at ranged where the mob can't hit me?
Yep.
What's the advantage? And one of the funny things is mobs actually do a lot of damage. And as I'm bitching about mobs being not strong enough, but take your character, don't press any flask buttons, leap into a pack of white zombies in a max tier map, you're dead. You're just going to get completely destroyed. That's the reality of melee. So melee then needs to be given a little bit of area effect, but then it's like, oh, I want my melee skill to be competitive. So then we get Blade Flurry, Earthquake, Ancestral Totems. If casters and ranged do not have a downside, melee can't exist in your game except as a caster that you're calling melee. That's fundamentally it. There's no way around it.
Yeah. So for melee to be better, range needs a nerf.
Yep, I don't think there's really a way. Yeah, I guess depending on the audience, it might be the better direction of maybe modeling it so that melee is not even a part of the game and bothering with it, because people now like the range. That's a different way of looking at it, just slowly phase out melee, which you could argue they've been doing. Because look how much, think about how much development time they've wasted on melee. Just name lock. Mm-hmm. Like, just think, then that's there isn't a solution unless you gut caster ranged. And how's that gonna go?
Yeah, it's a hard problem. I'm really curious to see what they're gonna do about it. I think they're gonna be
They're gonna do
changing
nothing
melee.
about it. They've
No,
done nothing for years. They're gonna do nothing about it.
we don't know. I mean, they're fixing Cyclone-ish.
Yeah,
That's a good step. Here, a bunch of steps in the right
okay.
direction can
How
get you
did
there.
the increased melee range patch go? Did that make everybody playing the name lock skills come out of the woodwork?
Actually, they sort of nerfed all AoE, so a lot of the melee is sort of unplayable right now.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. They had this one big AoE patch where they wanted to make AoE less mandatory to take, but they nerfed the radius a little too hard, so now we don't have any AoE at all anymore.
Remove area of effect, for fuck's sakes. They had tons of it on the tree. They took it off. They took less on the tree, being like, oh, but then people won't have to take both trees. It's like, why? No, it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's more
Make your
mandatory
skill,
now.
give it a set amount of area of effect, can't be modified. Then something like Carcass Jack is special because it's like, oh, that increases my area of effect. That's the only way to. Or Divinaris, at a loss of a lot of damage. And then you don't have to deal with any of the balance shit around area of effect. Wow, problem solved. Or you can waste time developing it for not 7 years, like 3 fucking years, and keep dicking around with it, fucking it up.
Yeah, I don't think you would have liked the AoE changes at least. It's basically Path of Projectiles right now.
I was playing Detonate Dead, and that area of effect was painfully small, so I couldn't imagine.
There were a
Did they nerf
few
Detonate Dead
things that went better with it. I can't remember what, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of the AoE changes. The next question is by Heavens900. PT, I honestly loved your PoE lore series. Are we going to see a return of this for the 6 new acts of the storyline?
I didn't even finish the first act. No.
No lore storyline, really?
It was a fun project to do, to be honest. But the reality of the lore thing is, as much as I enjoyed doing it, there isn't a community interest. There's a reason the lore in Path of Exile is pretty shallow, pretty terrible. People aren't playing PoE for the lore. Though I had fun doing the videos, you're a streamer, you do YouTube content. There's often a time you have to be like, is this worth my time? And the lore videos took a lot of effort because I needed to make sure they were correct. It's not like I'm playing with the mechanics and everything I know. I'm like, okay, well, these are the lore elements. Well, what's the future lore to then script it? Is there any ambiguities? What's been retconned? Because they've retconned. What's changing? And then there was the new stuff coming out. So it was just, it's an amount of work that nobody's willing to pay for. And if you look at the quality, not even GGG is willing to pay for it.
Something I was wondering about with like PoE versus WoW streaming, is there like, do you do less YouTube videos now? Like, would you say you're like, is it more relaxing for you to play WoW than PoE? Because obviously when you're playing PoE, there's like quite a high demand for often providing content and stuff like that. Like I at least find myself editing quite a lot of YouTube content.
Well, that was a little bit of a difference. I stopped doing some YouTube content for 2 reasons. I actually tried out the YouTube streaming service, which then I found out I wasn't supposed to as a Twitch streamer, cough cough, but technically a private server isn't covered under their rules. Mistakes were made. But it was, I still wanted to see how that is. It's weird. And so that was one thing. So I wasn't uploading content because I was trying to just seeing what the YouTube streaming was. And then after that, in terms of WoW, Path of Exile, one thing that people often forget about the size of the audience and the size of the chat is because when you look at it, it actually has a good Twitch following. It has fairly active chats. Yeah. It has fairly good numbers, especially for the size of the game. But that's because a lot of the information is not in the game. It's fairly ambiguous. There's a purpose of explaining very small details of your build and why your build is different than someone else's. That isn't needed in WoW. So there isn't a, what content am I doing that's actually meaningful content to a community versus, you see the people who create content to just reiterate other people's content and then try to create a fan base through that of then reiterated content, which I don't care for.
But, so to answer my question, would you say you're more relaxed streaming World of Warcraft than PoE?
Well, you don't have instant death, and you get a bad day.
Yeah.
You die when you don't want to. Some days you die, you're fine. Other days you die, and it's just like, I didn't want to die today. Yeah, that sucks. So yeah, it's more relaxed in that sense. But at the same point in time, um, like I've done content significantly harder than anything that's in PoE, and you're with sometimes with pugs, you're doing interesting things. So it's more dynamic. You can't, well, you can a lot of the time. There are instances that it is much more driven than Path of Exile, but it doesn't have the that adrenaline when you're about to die, obviously.
Yeah, I can see that being something you'd miss as well, that I could relate to. So you were talking about YouTube streaming. Ignor's question is, what's your opinion on YouTube streaming, and what's the difference between it and Twitch?
Well, I have anecdotal evidence. I didn't do a lot of reading into it. The major things that I can point out is the hardware requirements, just in terms of how much OBS communicating with Twitch takes up in terms of your computer space. I could get like data if you cared more. YouTube, the infrastructure is vastly better. It is so much better. And then also, like, when you're wanting to do highlights, you can just upload your entire stream virtually instantly into your YouTube content. Well, that's a wonderful feature. But at the same point in time, I think one of the major drawbacks for someone who was looking at it from a content creator perspective, someone that was wanting to do more with it, you're on an audience where people aren't expecting to ever pay for their entertainment. Patreon shows up, and Twitch people are more understanding that streaming can take a lot of time. So you're not going to get as many donations here and there, at least my experience. If you hit a large enough number, those things happen. But once again, it's anecdotal.
Yeah. And something I really like about Twitch is, for example, especially now when you get partnered, you get like a partner rep that you can talk to and help you out with advice and stuff like that. Is there even anything like that for YouTube?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
In theory, I think YouTube would be better. And one of the reasons is, sure, we both got partnered, and it's definitely an exciting moment to get partnered. Like, yeah, you're part of the club. It's not that exclusive, to be fair. But in YouTube, you can get most of the monetization stuff instantly without bullshit. And the subsystem gaining it is fairly subjective. It is not a list of do this, do this, do this. You get it. It's apply, and we will say yes or no based on absolutely nothing. So in theory, all your competition all of a sudden would be getting the proper monetary value, but then there's like the YouTube monetary shit that's been happening recently, the propensity of people to potentially donate, and so also one of the major things about YouTube is in Twitch, browse games, whatever, then you get visual all the people's games. Try looking for a stream in
I don't even
YouTube.
know how.
It's a fucking exactly. That's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to look for something and you don't know how, they fucked up.
Yeah. I don't know. I just get more and more upset. I just wish Twitch would get a slightly better video upload service. Like, I've started using it a little bit more. But if I could see myself just
the YouTube
not using
service is godly. It is so much better. But they have the infrastructure.
A better one. I just don't like YouTube. The other day, right? Like, this is like a month or two now. I usually put on like YouTube videos for music while I'm in the shower, right? Just a playlist. And then suddenly I just started hearing random noises, and I come out of the shower and I see that I'm 15 minutes into an advertisement, which was 1 hour and 30 minutes total, and I was like, "What the fuck?" So it had put on a 1 hour 30-minute advertisement, which was from some random streamer. It was just his full GTA playthrough stream. This wasn't like a highlight video. This was just a random fucking playthrough of some random streamer playing G2A. And I was just sitting there for 5 minutes like, is this something interesting? And yeah, I could skip ad, but when you're not, like, I couldn't touch my phone, so all I heard was like random noises while I'm in the shower. Just, what the fuck?
Yeah, you just want to like put something on and...
Yeah.
Well, you get a problem, and trying to be fair, it is both Twitch and YouTube. People are wanting content for free, much more than they ever have. And advertisements, kind of people like clicking, you've got ad blocks up. It's much worse for the advertisers. I'm not, and that's just a reality of it. So the expectations of the consumers and the quality of product is making things difficult to provide the service in the quality that the consumer wants.
Yeah. It's just very surprising to me. So, the next question is by Goat7777. How long have you been... He's got four good questions. How long have you been streaming for, and was it mostly PoE related? And what games did you play primarily leading up to PoE?
Yeah, I until like the last 4 months I left. It was almost entirely PoE. There was a couple little things I did for less than a week, but it was PoE, and I've been streaming for what, like 2 years and a bit.
Yeah, we started nearly around the same time.
Yeah. So there was that before PoE. Dark Souls was kind of my thing. Then I've been a gamer all my life, so I can start basically at the NES and go from there. But I liked RPG-related things, even turn-based. Golden Sun is a fucking fantastic game. Fire Emblem, Demon Souls, Dark Souls, FPSs like the earlier Halo games. Yeah, I just like games.
Yeah. Let's see.
And there was a third question, wasn't there? The third and fourth one. What were there?
There's 4 more. There's 3 more coming.
Okay.
That was just the first one. So, 2, you obviously had a lot of fun with PoE up to a point. What specific mechanics, game direction, or addition really stopped it being fun for you, aside from burnout / getting bored?
It just converted from a game where you are trying to get as far as you can before death into a power fantasy where death is inevitable due to the fact that eventually you're going to have a brain fart.
The third question is, aside from the recent upcoming ES changes, what specifically would you want to see more of in PoE? Oh, okay, we've covered that already.
Yeah.
4, you obviously have a liking for games that are quite hard, but strategically and mechanically. Is there any other games on your radar which you're looking forward to playing? Which you kind of covered with the Saundra thing.
Yeah, more or less. Surge was actually one that I'm waiting for a little bit more reviews, and I think I saw ETUP playing that one, so the Surge will be interesting. It's Dark Souls combat with some kind of dissection. It's in the future, so you can take apart some enemies and do some crafting with your RPG elements. Question is how is its combat or its replayability? I've heard it has mixed reviews right now. Like I don't want to play a game day one to find out that I just people are always like day one. I'm like, how about I find out that the game's shit and then I play it.
Now that you're playing World of Warcraft, which is obviously an MMO, like, is the community different? And like, do you have a guild on World of Warcraft, or what do you do?
I haven't interacted, I interacted with the community in Path of Exile for various different reasons. In terms of World of Warcraft, I haven't spent the time. Am I in a guild? Yeah, because I want to do Mythic raiding. The next week I'm going to be doing progression fight for the Mythic Gul'dan fight, which is the final one. And there's interaction that way, but the community haven't really tried. I want to raid, have some fun with that.
Cool. How big is your guild?
I don't know. I heal shit.
So you're a priest. Cool.
I'm a resto shaman.
Oh.
God fucking damn it.
Well, you could...
Yeah.
Okay, it was a 50-50,
Yeah.
right? Wow.
No.
30-30?
There are 5 healers.
Oh, god damn
I
it.
think. I don't know. Maybe I'm a resto shaman. That's all I need to know is to do my job.
Have you played anything else in World of Warcraft, or just healer?
A long time ago, yeah, but in this expansion, I'm just going to play Resto Shaman. If I don't have fun with that, I'll just do something else. Different game.
Cool. Wildgeist is asking, how do you deal with all the negativity slash hate that you can get from a community? And do you feel like it's really important to have very thick skin as a streamer?
Different people react different ways. Like, you've been on the internet, you've seen a comment section.
Mm.
It's the internet. You can take whatever you want seriously, you cannot care. Ultimately, the difficult part is, as much as any person wants to care as much as they possibly can about not necessarily the quality of their content, but the feedback of the content. There's a large enough audience, people will agree with you, people will disagree with you. You can focus on whatever you want. If you focus too much on the people agreeing with you, well, you got a little bubble there. If you focus on the people disagreeing with you, well, you're going to quit doing content because you can't handle it. You have to not be a fucking retard and have a spine, figure out how to be a person rather than caring about everybody else's opinion, and just, level the feedback that way.
Nate is asking, have you seen the program Path of Building? If so, what are your thoughts? Because you really like theory crafting and stuff like that.
Path YouTube channel?
No, it's actually a program. So it's sort of like the POE builder thing that we would use for skill trees. But you can
that's the newer one that came out in mid 2.4 or early?
Something like that. You can actually design or put in items and...
Yeah, that was one that I was taking a look at a little bit offline. It was a really powerful tool in what I saw, but I quit before utilizing it.
Yeah, I think if you combine, that's something you'll enjoy. It is a little overpowered though. Like, you can literally see the DPS difference between two nodes and stuff like that.
Yeah, and well, ultimately, the game is very math driven, and that's going to happen. Would be nice if the developers of GGG would download that skill and then see how much one skill does a lot more damage than the other, but we can only hope.
Here is actually an important question that I ask every time on AMAs now. So probably the most important question. Do you like pineapple on pizza?
Fuck off.
Oh, thank God. Good. That's a no, right?
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Good.
It's a fucking fruit.
I know.
I'll give you fruit of pizza. That's stupid.
Yep.
Stop it.
Thank you. Good. Jolly Fox is asking, do you feel like Grim Dawn is more the experience you're looking for?
Well, what we were talking about earlier and what I was looking for is and some endgame focus. And Grim Dawn, having played Titan Quest, there's a lot of similarities to the point that you play one, you might not even want to play the other. It's more or less the same. Now, if Grim Dawn continues to do some endgame content, I'm going to be more interested into it. But as of now, it's kind of you play a game, you like the genre, but you get to not necessarily a burnout point, but you want something a bit fresh, so yeah, play something else the same genre that doesn't have the endgame available, gives you a nice break, then you go back to what you were doing for your break. That's what I feel Grim Dawn is to a lot of people. Once it has more meaningful endgame, I'll take a better look at it.
Yeah. Actually, it's a game I haven't really played that much myself. I think I played 8 hours, and I just kept hearing everyone say the endgame was shit, so it was a bit disappointing. The next question is by Miraji. If you were to make 3 changes to the Ascendant Ascendancies, what would they be and why?
Delete the Scion, because the Scion doesn't function at all.
You can make it better.
Okay, in theory you can, but what does the Scion add to the game?
It's a nice hybrid mix between other classes. If you don't want to decide...
But all classes are a hybrid mix. I can do an energy shield fucking marauder if I want to.
Yeah, but say you want different aspects. Say you really like something from Pathfinder and you really like something from Occultist, then you can get a mix between the two. That's the entire point of the Scion class.
Yeah, but then here's the problem that you run into. The core game is fairly simple in terms of its dimensions. Now, I know there's subtlety, but we need to explain this for what the problem with the Scion is. You have offense and you have defense. All of the ascendancies that are used, though they do different things, it's an amount of offense that it gives you, an amount of defense that it gives you. Very few of the options are really used for their utility. Some are, but usually it's a utility directly related to power.
Yep.
This means that the Scion is in a position that if it is trying to take something from 2 things, it will run into a situation where it's weaker than just being the pure option,
Yeah.
or stronger than the pure option. And this is what has always happened to the Scion. Everybody plays Scion, nobody plays Scion.
Yeah.
Now, you could, it wouldn't be part of the flavor of the class, just give the Scion a unique ascendancy that is not related to any of the other ascendancies.
Mm-hmm.
Give it some flavor related to her lore. Done. Then, sure, there's a reason to play Scion. But I think you should delete it.
I actually kind of see what you're saying, because it has always been a classic problem. I'd rather have Scion be something more unique, because I kind of, like, now that you mention it like that, see the problem where it is either OP or too bad, because it is just part of other classes. And that is what's happened. It's been one patch now where, oh my god, everybody's Scion, and then, oh my god, what's a Scion? So...
It's a design corner that they're in. Now, I'm sure you could be very, very creative, but think about like how like close and detailed those numbers and creativity need to be just to make it work. And then if you adjust any of the other ascendancies, well, you change the fine tuning of the Scion to it being broken or challenging. So it's a problem. It is a problem that exists. It has never been anything but a problem.
Yeah.
It doesn't add anything to the game. You know, would the game be any different if instead, when you unlock the Scion, you could play any of the classes of the Scion skin? Would that fundamentally change the game? Fuck no.
That's fair.
So, Scion's a problem.
So on an unrelated note, what is your most favorite and least favorite moment as a streamer?
As a streamer?
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite and least favorite streaming moment?
Shit.
What made you jump with joy and happiness, PT?
Yeah, me jump with joy. Fucking, that's me. I'm always like, yeah, the funsies.
Here, I've seen you smile.
I do smile. That is a thing. I don't actually have an answer to. I'm trying to think. I'm not.
No
trying
happy
to...
moments from streaming. It's just like what?
Well, I have moments that I enjoy, but I can't. I'm not a person that's like, oh yeah, there was this moment that was so spectacular.
Tell us a happy streaming moment then.
Getting the sub button was a happy moment for obvious reasons, because that was exhausting as shit. Getting denied sub buttons when numbers shouldn't be an issue was annoying as shit. That's an easy answer, but I accidentally had a nude photo on my stream once. That was not of me, fortunately. That would have been great. That was definitely a downtime, but at the same point in time, everybody likes some nudity. What's uptime? Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Uptime, nudity on the stream, win-win.
That's good. So, about other streamers, do you watch any other streams?
I think, in all honesty, a lot of streamers, as much as they try, and I'm sure you can, like, even if you get along with someone, if you're wanting to do stream, it's too time consuming. Mm-hmm. Like, even if you're wanting, like, I enjoy trying to catch some of the lifting nerd bros, I enjoy, like, there's things that I try to catch, but you're in a situation where you're like, hey, I have spare time. Am I going to stream? Am I going to watch a stream? And it's no disrespect to any other streamer, but every streamer knows this. Let's not lie to each other. That's the reality.
For sure. And you've worked with quite a lot of other streamers as well. Like, has there been any like favorite streamer to work with so far?
Like, you get along for different reasons. Lifting Nerd Bro is probably the streamer that I've done the most work with, and like, Lifting's fun to work with because of his ambition. Then again, It's Yoji's very fun for me to work with because It's Yoji has a very calculated mind, and that works well with how I see the game. But there's then a difference between, okay, what can you put together as a product? So when I worked with Hedgie, I have a lot of disagreements with Hedgie. So there's more going on. There's more of a dynamic that we can do. So that ends up working nicely. Whereas me and Yoji doing joint content, it's too similar. There isn't a point of the discussion. We might as well just put our own opinions in. Okay, that's it. So yeah, I've never I've enjoyed working with everyone. I can't say that there's a favorite thing because at the same point in time, doing consistent content with the same person, as people have you're doing AMAs one-on-one.
Mhm.
There's a reason why it's an advantage to not having others. The more people you depend on, the more timetables move
Yeah.
back, and it gets in the way.
Yeah. Have you seen Path of Paper at all?
No, I've heard about a lot of it. I've not been one that likes. I play D&D.
Yeah.
I haven't played it recently. I play D&D. I've done campaigns. I've been game masters for it. Some other role-playing games as well. I've never been into the watching it
Yeah.
scene, and at the same point in time, to be slightly mean, it seems. I don't want to say not good. It's just skinned POE for the sake of pandering to an audience. It's nothing more than that, and I'm sorry. That doesn't have any interest to me.
It's okay.
I don't like
Everybody's entitled
pandering.
to opinions.
Yeah, and then it's fine. Like I understand why people enjoy that specifically. I don't enjoy that specifically. I would be more interested the same group of people in actually putting the work into making a universe and then doing something with it rather than the crutch of the pandering audience of the joint content.
Fair enough. That was an interesting opinion that I wasn't expecting.
Well, what the fuck do you want?
No, this is great. I love it. I'm fun. Brackbro is asking, what is your educational background?
Uh, what was it? The Masters of Science. It was electrical engineering, incomplete, converted to Masters of Science, and then so.
Oh, so S Nemesis has a guess on what PT stands for. Project PT. Does the PT come from piezoelectric transformer?
No.
Oh, somebody else guessed something in Latin, which I thought was clever, but can't see it anymore. Talk Coffee Gaming is asking, would it be good to add rune words to Path of Exile?
I don't think. I guess it would depend how elaborate. Like if you're using it almost as is. Rune words were a different way for items to drop. In essence, once you get sockets, you craft on the runes, and it creates an item. Is what people want in Path of Exile a different way to obtain an item? Right, because you're getting a frag. You could argue that rune words function in a very similar way to divination cards.
Yeah, sure.
Are people excited about divination cards?
If they had a better drop rate, yeah. People are excited about the Chevron divination card.
Yeah, and but it's a process. I don't think it's a bad process, but is it worth their time doing either? I mean, you could make the argument that Atziri loot or Shaper loot is in a way functionally the same as a rune word. You get the fragments, you put it together, rather than getting instantly the item, you get a gauntlet and a chance. So if they can have a flavor-wise, if they do an interesting thing, would it be bad for the game? No. Would it add anything to the game outside of that flavor? No.
It could be more power creep as well, so it's a bit scary.
Well, I think that's one of the things that people don't quite understand when they look at RPGs. So let's look at a patch. You have content, the balance is whatever it is. Now, if I introduce more items, one of two things happens. You put them on a build. Why would you put an item that's new on your build? Because it's better than a current item. Power creep.
Yeah.
Or nobody uses them. No power creep, and developers wasted their time because nobody wants these items. They're garbage, instant trash. So this is a problem for stimulating players. And so you have to
like
cleverly nerf. Yeah, so you want to change things. You need to be clever with your nerf so players don't feel nerfs. You want to add power, but you want to add power when you take away the power at the exact same time without anybody noticing. That's the trick.
Yeah. So if you were, say you were coming back next week, say you were playing in 3.0, and you could pick two. You have to group with two other streamers. What two streamers would you pick?
For
Gripping and playing.
I don't know. I would enjoy seeing how angry I could make Havoc.
I would pay to see that. You and Havoc push to level 19.
I would do everything that I could to slow him down.
And he's not allowed to leave you behind. That'd be great.
If he's not allowed to leave my group, and he must always be in my zone, Havoc.
Who else?
If it's the same group,
yep.
Dismantle time. Just to piss Havoc off one.
I would pay to see that.
I don't dislike Havoc, but I've never seen him.
It sounds like you dislike Havoc with that group.
No, I don't dislike Havoc, but I've never seen him
fucking kill me, Seth.
Get fucked, I think. That's what I'm looking for. Like, Havoc plays extremely well. He never has issues with content. You know, sure, he'll get die from some mechanics, but I want to see him with a crutch. And that crutch would be two retards falling around him.
Okay, well, that's like, I mean, I wish someone would step on a Lego the other day, and I felt like I stepped out of line, but that's the most sadistic thing I've ever heard. So,
all right.
Wow, I like it. I'm happy I asked that question now. Speaking of, like, we were speaking of streaming and stuff. So, if you weren't a streamer and you weren't doing tutoring, was there anything else in life you would want to do?
I originally had a lot of interest in doing some of the advanced mathematics, and that was when I was first applying to advanced education. That's what I wanted. Career paths for advanced math are more or less limited, and there's some very good options, and then I was looking at some of the teaching stuff, but there's a difference between what you're passionate about learning in and career paths that fit. And yeah, that was kind of what changed that. And tutoring I do enjoy because it has a lot of the advantages of the educational stuff, but, you know, tutoring long-term, you can't really particularly do that. Well, you could in theory, but yeah.
Somebody was asking, are you a natural redhead, and have you ever dyed your hair?
So I think there's a issue with the general lighting that I use because my beard's red, but my hair is not red. Oh. There's a shadow and, you know, fluorescent lighting.
Yeah.
I'm dirty blonde, not even strawberry blonde, but it's.
Yeah, even the wall behind you looks a little reddish.
Yeah, and it's blue. So lighting, cameras. I don't have a fantastic setup. We all know that. That's the reality of it.
Yeah, I can actually believe that with looking at the wall, because it does look a little red.
I'm colorblind, so I mean, I ain't confirming nor denying anything.
What kind of colorblind are you?
My passport says blonde. It's blonde enough that my passport's blonde. If that works.
And have you ever dyed your hair?
Well, that's why it's. I dyed my hair white for graduation.
Oh. Like a Gandalf thing, or?
He was really hard to. Not quite that color. It was. I was just like, fuck it.
Cool.
Wanted to do something stupid for grad. Dyed it. They just bleached the shit out of it.
And what kind of colorblind are you?
It's a bit more complicated. It's a combination of a bunch of them. I basically can't determine any color for certain.
Does that make playing Path of Exile harder at all and stuff like that?
Path of Exile isn't actually too bad. Like there's certain games that do colorblindness better or worse, and you don't really think of it obviously if you're not colorblind.
Yeah.
Path of Exile for the most part is very good. One of the issues that I had was the green-red sockets with the chromatic drops. Now that hadn't been an issue since the loot filter, but before that it was one that like it would actually be difficult for me to discern if that was a chromatic or not.
Wow.
Other than that, the Malachi fight is a little bit annoying, but apparently it's pretty clusterfucky for everyone. Just the red on red on red.
Yeah.
Really, the issue more comes down with certain particle effects. when they're intentionally designed to be faint.
Yeah.
So fortunately, it's the non-empowered storm call of Uber Zeri.
Mhm.
Though
Oh
you can
yeah.
see the center reticle, like the ground's brown,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so the center reticle has animation, different color. It's pretty discernible, but the outer one is pretty faint comparatively. So if the center reticle got cast in the um, what is it? The skull pile in the corners,
Mhm.
so that it's hidden underneath rather than going over top,
Yeah.
that would be more or less invisible to me.
Oh wow.
But
Wow. Yeah, that's something I wouldn't really think about, obviously. So, huh.
fortunately, it's not the empowered one, so that one you can survive just by having an energy shield. It's the
And
empowered
have
one.
you ever tried any of those like special glasses that let you see color normally, or?
I no, I haven't actually tried in Chroma. They're a bit pricey, and it's just not been something that I've put tons of
Yeah.
time. The only thing you need to keep in mind is they don't work on everybody. Color blindness isn't a like you're level 1 colorblind, you're
Yeah.
level 2 colorblind. It's a bit more of a complicated area. There are a majority of types of colorblind, in which case you can like WoW has a colorblind mode,
Hmm.
and options of colorblind modes. None of them work for me
That
because
sucks.
it's a variation. Like I can when I have a problem seeing a certain element on a fight, I'll switch to a colorblind mode to highlight that element, but then other things are then problematic that weren't problematic before.
How did you find out you were colorblind?
I was sorting Smarties when I was little, and my parents thought I was retarded. So Smarties.
Oh, was there anything particular you got wrong, or?
I I don't know. That's how colorblind works. That's the
That's
point.
fair. I
If
was
I
thinking
could
maybe
see
they
the
would
difference.
have told you. You communicate with people. That's great, though.
Fuck, I don't know. Like, yeah, no, I have no idea.
That's funny.
Apparently, I sorted them wrong. There's your answer.
Fine. Great Letters is asking, do you regret some of the things you did leading to your leaving? Looking back, would you have expressed yourself differently?
No, fuck GGG.
Fair enough. Jolly Fox is asking, have you played through all of Dark Souls 3 and what were the highlights?
So I didn't play the the DLC content that they introduced. I actually haven't played that. And the reason I did it or didn't is because I didn't enjoy Dark Souls 3 enough.
Hmm.
Highlights of the fight, definitely going into the final boss. If you've played Dark Souls 1, it has a very nice homage, even if the fight might be a little disappointing. But maybe that's also homage because the final fight of Dark Souls 1
Yeah.
also disappointing. The there were some really nice boss designs, and going into the Boreal, I think it was the Boreal Dancer, Shadow Dancer,
Yeah.
is just visually a spectacular fight.
Yeah.
So those are probably the highlights.
Yeah, Shadow Dancer was really cool. I actually walked into it accidentally as my third boss and kept like wondering why I couldn't kill it. It's like,
You ended up completing the game.
yeah.
How did you find it?
So I found it personally that some of like I ended up looking at like a what was the hardest bosses list after I finished the game, and what the majority found was the easiest bosses were the ones I struggled on the most. Like the Demon Lord. I don't know if you fought him. I think it's an optional boss. It's like a big demon king or something.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I found him really hard.
Well, like, so one of the things that you'll notice if you've played any Souls game is you see certain people in like, this is unanimously the hardest boss, and you're like, well, he wasn't that hard. And then you're like, you see this, and like, wow, that thing was the most piss easy thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I wiped for like
Exactly.
3
Yeah,
hours
I
on
saw
it.
the comments and I was like, what do you mean that was easy? What the fuck?
You have to remember that so the reason that that happens is you have your propensity to dodge. You see an attack and you have a reaction time related to the swing.
Mhm.
But to keep the mob's difficulty, certain mobs slow down. The actual damage is a little bit later,
Yeah.
and some are a little bit sooner. That means if you dodge normally pretty quick, the quicker ones are going to be the easier fights for you. The ones that have that, they hold up their attack
Yeah,
and
the
then they wait a
Demon
little
King
bit.
had a bit of a delay. But
Exactly. So those are the ones then, if you're slower to dodge, you'll
yeah.
find those significantly easier. And that's why you get such really weird things.
I really liked the one, he was in a castle? He had like a twin or something as well?
Yeah, the twin princes.
Yeah, and then there was another guy that had like a clone or something as well. There was like two where there was like, yeah, like, but both of those fights had like two stages. There was
Every fight
one,
had two stages. That's
yeah,
I actually disliked that, and the reason was because when every fight had two stages, so the Twin Prince fight, when you knew that when you killed him, something was going to
yeah.
happen. It wasn't a surprise
I,
because every fight had two phases, and so that
no, that's
was
fair. I really liked the second last fight with the twins. And
it was
then
well
I was
designed.
super disappointed in the last fight. I don't know if I just got really lucky, but I one-shot it, and I was like,
It
what?
was a bad fight.
What? What? No. I was so upset. I was like, that can't be the fight. And as I said, I don't know, like, it didn't get very hard ratings either, but I was super disappointed in the last fight.
Some people truly believe that the reason they made it is because the Dark Souls 1 was a very disappointing last fight. Dark Souls 2, hilariously disappointing last fight. Um, Demon Souls, which is the first game, technically has a pretty disappointing last fight, but I'm going to put an asterisk there
Yeah.
because anyone who plays it knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Um, but so it might have been a funny homage, but yeah, it was a bad fight.
And
It was conceptually neat.
yeah. But to reiterate, I don't mean one shot hit him with my sword. I just meant first try I killed him,
No,
which is disappointing.
I I think I only one shot like two bosses, though I went into like when I went into the Souls game, because I had a lot of experience and
Hmm.
I've done challenge runs, I was like, okay, no shields, um, two-hand dexterity run, and no points into life, not a single point,
Hmm.
which made the bishop fight one of the hardest fights for me,
Ah.
just because I couldn't absorb any damage, and so I had to like goof around with their AI, and yeah, oddly enough, the bishop was one of the more annoying fights for me to do.
You know the big giant thing? The big where you have to
Uh,
like get the sword that like weakens him?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't read any lore when I play games like that. So I didn't know
Uh,
about that sword. I picked it up even, I just didn't think about anything. So I killed him naturally with just hitting him lows. And I was like, holy fuck, this thing is tanky. I think I spent like 20 to 40 minutes there.
you probably would have played it in the patch where that would have been possible, but you would have been spending more than 30. They patched it so that that was a reasonable strat eventually, because so many people were
Oh,
watching.
yeah.
Um,
I don't read
uh,
lore.
yeah, the Soul series has never done gimmicky bosses well. That wasn't a good fight. It was a shit fight. Same
Reading
with
mana
the.
3.
Did you find the bonus zone?
I don't know. I don't know what was a bonus zone.
Did you fight a really gimmicky fight involving a plunge attack?
Is it the thing in the sewers?
You did not find the bonus zone. Okay.
Fair enough. Organic is asking, are there any regulars that you miss talking to from your stream or that you touch base with from time to time? Like that would be primarily a PoE viewer, for example.
Yeah, well, obviously there's a simple question that when you're going like I did my entire streaming career until relatively recently in Path of Exile. That's what people knew me for. That's what people knew my YouTube for. And so there was obviously the regulars. Look up channel numbers before and after. Very fucking obvious.
Mhm.
And yeah, you get invested into player or like the actual specific people, no doubt about that. But at the same point in time, when I quit World of Warcraft in like early Cataclysm or any game that you've invested a lot of time, you get to a point where you know the reason you're playing a game is the people around you, not the substance of the game itself. And depending on how much time you're putting in, it's just like, no, I'm not going to play a game because it's a more elaborate chat feature.
Hmm. Is it harder to like live in Portugal without streaming PoE? Like, obviously you have slightly less viewers on World of Warcraft. Is that something that makes it more difficult?
Well, in terms of like being 100% financed, like obviously
Hmm.
I can't do that. But at the same point in time, I always made sure that I was never dependent because the thing would be it would be pretty stupid to be like, hey, okay, I'm 100% dependent on this game that I'm not totally fallen for. Like when I've always had issues with PoE here and there. I like the game.
Yeah.
People enjoyed some of the criticisms, but I wasn't the biggest fanboy in the universe about it. and putting all your eggs in one basket and being like, yeah, I'm 100% dependent on streaming.
Yeah.
Fuck PoE. That's a smart move.
I mean, I'm at
Yeah.
all my eggs in one kind of basket kind of guy, so
Yeah, but you're a fanboy, so it works.
maybe. Here, I'm pretty critical at the same
Mr.
time. I'm also
Optimism.
optimistic. I can be optimistic and be critical.
I'm not saying anything. Being nice. You see, I can be nice.
That's you being nice.
Nice,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Look at this. Fuck off.
You want to say something, don't you? Fedora the Explorer 420 is saying, if I recall correctly, PT was trying to make a SimCity-like game. If this is true, how is it going?
I remember I was kind of dicking around with the Unity engine and just playing around with the C# code, and I want to just create a management structure. This was a while ago, like fucking long time ago. I think that was before I was partnered long ago. It's time consuming. You have a limited amount of time, and so it was just one of the things that gets dropped, and you're like, yeah, I like the idea. It would be fun. No, I didn't have the time to.
So you've dropped that.
Yep.
Martman is asking if you all could make a unique item to pair with an existing unique, what would it be?
To pair. See, I wouldn't even want to do that because you're creating a pseudo set. You're creating a unique that's designed around the existence of another unique so that they can work in tandem. But don't you want to? I hate that design. That is just the epitome of a terrible unique. So no.
I used to like that until, yeah, I no longer like that.
Well, I think everybody it feels right when you get sets. It's like you're completing something, but once you get to the nitty gritty and really play around with your character design, if you need 2 items to take the slot of 1, that's a degree of freedom. Every item slot you have is a degree of freedom in theory. And if 2 items take up 1 slot, maybe if there's a couple, it's not really problematic. They did the Rigwald items that were terrible, the sword and the axe. That's technically a set.
Yeah.
But they were done in such a loose way that they could, in theory, pair with other items in the future. And to make sure that sets were never popular, they ensured that those items sucked.
I mean,
so,
quite a lot of people did use the axe in particular.
It was a chase item in a way, but, it became just an offhand stick, which is not even exciting, offhand sticks.
People used them in the set as well. I wouldn't say they were that bad. Like, they just weren't spectacular. They weren't, like, best in slot.
Problem is, it's so easy to get spectacular that anything even sub-spectacular gets tossed in the bin quite quickly.
Yeah, that is a problem, and probably why PoE does not like sets. Jolly Fox is asking, Star Wars or Star Trek?
I think I've never been a huge fan of both. When I think about, I think Star Wars has a nice fantasy combat. Like, that's what Star Wars is. It's medieval fantasy, sci-fi setting. Fuck it. But Star Trek has a universe that somebody has a brain in it. Like it's got more that way. And Star Wars, for some reason, one family can take over, destroy the fucking galaxy. It's
a little more
build
hopeful.
Another Death Star.
It's a little
Fuck
more
it.
helpful.
One's more one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And it's fine. Visual combat, lightsabers, awesome. Star Trek is a little bit more political-ish stuff, especially some of the expanded. But I've never been a huge fanboy of either.
Cool. I actually would have thought you would have been pretty into like sci-fi.
I like sci-fi. I'm not a fan so much of those sci-fi. I like my dystopian more stuff. Both Star Wars and Star Trek is just a bit too upbeat.
Wouldn't want to be too upbeat.
Exactly.
Hahat is asking, PT, are you still a full-time streamer?
I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't like. I stream a lot. I
Yeah.
have the opportunity to play a lot, but no, I'm not financially dependent on it,
Yeah.
so I would be no.
iShrip is asking, hey Ziz, can you ask him why he is not looking into the camera?
I threw like when I started streaming, I just threw my camera webcam at the corner of my desk. Apparently, that was a sin because there's a specific angle that if you don't do, people are like, "You're looking down, us snobs," and I'm just like, I put a camera on my desk. If you care what I look like, fuck off. I don't give a shit. That's your problem.
Hmm. So now it's more of a statement.
No, I just threw a camera on my desk and I don't give
Okay.
a shit.
Okay.
I'm
Lack of
sorry that your
courage.
opinion matters.
That's fine. World 8 Night is asking, what build in PoE did you enjoy the most when you played and why?
It kind of depends on the leagues. You get very different things. Probably if I had to pick an all-star 1.3 Shockwave.
Hmm.
Or, was it Shock? Shock? No, not Shockwave. What's the
Shock
name of that?
Totem?
No, with this Shock?
What?
The lightning ring
Oh.
that nobody uses.
Uh,
No, Nova? No. Lightning Nova? No.
yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Shock Nova.
Uh, they had the Dead Zone.
Yeah, Shock
Shock
Nova.
Nova. Yeah, Shock Nova.
I was
That's
like,
the
is
one.
that a skill? Yeah, I guess it is.
So in 1.3, while it had its Dead Zone, a Herald of and the Herald device was still at its highest damage.
Yeah.
I could put it in a 4-link in hardcore and clear Pallas Dominus in like Tabula Rasa,
Yeah.
which 1.3 was insane because the freeze was so powerful. You could just make sure that if the boss had any type of trash mechanics, you would drop the Shock Nova, which had a ridiculous top end, and then Elemental Equilibrium with it at the time had to be the 3 dragons, would freeze things for up to like 20, 30 seconds. And since I had a dead zone, you just then moved so that you didn't kill the thing you were using Shock Nova on, and nothing touched you. Like everything shattered. Now I died. Trying to remember how, but this was when Herald of Ice and Reflect. As soon as you reflected into Herald of Ice, you were dead. But yeah, that was fucking hilarious.
Altyson is asking, PT, would you play the full throttle cock discharge to level 100 if it meant you could have your ideal PoE experience? Like, would you play like cock discharge, no looting, level 100, fast push to level 100 if like the game would change to your ideal PoE experience?
Well, so one of the things that I have no problems actually with speed builds.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of I've played Kinetic Blast Wandy, and I played Reeve when it was quite fast and there wasn't Blade Fury, but the reason I don't play them or stop playing them is because they're kind of the same. They're exactly the same. So if the game was more difficult, I would love speed in the game if you were punished for speed, not rewarded for speed. In terms of a element of competition, if the game gets harder, the faster you go, there's something interesting that happens in the first 100, and then you don't have to have such ridiculous EXP penalties for getting to 100. The reason we have such ridiculous EXP penalties is because dying isn't actually a problem in the game. Now, when you think about speed, it is significantly safer to go fast than to go slow. You can go faster than the bearers. You kill mobs for a period of time, given your flasks, which means you just put your fingers on 1 to 5 and go like, meh. I know people like to nag me that they, for some reason, think that I don't know that Valspark exists, where you just kind of shield charge, press 1 to 5, and then click Valspark, and you're like, oh my god, I'm good. But everything's dying, nothing's touching me, bosses are dying. So the faster you go, the mobs are. Like, that's the thing. It's an easier game. And I wouldn't mind that if it was much more punishing,
Oh.
rather than, oh shit, I didn't notice the volatile.
I mean, that is pretty punishing.
It is punishing, but is it
Not
a
for the right
situation?
reasons.
Yeah, exactly. It's, when you die, you want to be like, I did something wrong. Not, the game is being cleared at a pace that, like, you can't mouse over and look for volatiles. All you
Yeah.
do is you notice a slightly different color.
You hope it's
That
not a
color
volatile.
implies nemesis. Since you know it's nemesis, you just don't run directly through it,
Mhm.
and you're good.
If only it was that
But
simple.
yeah, so you die,
Yeah.
and it's I've seen you die instant second. I've died. When you die, it's not like, oh man, what can I do with my build to make it better? What
Oh,
could
higher
I have
CI.
done differently? It's like, shit happens. Nothing I could have realistically done about that. If you think about the amount of times I've dodged it and there's managed to
Yeah,
eventually happen, it's a time bomb. Move on, and that's
for
not fun.
sure. Spooky Turtlewang is saying, ask PT if he likes your hair.
I'm colorblind. I don't give a shit about people's hair color.
Wait,
I'm
can you not
glad that
see
he
my
fits
hair
in a
color?
hot topic. Like, it's fantastic.
So wait, do you know what color my hair is?
I, I think blue was mentioned at one point, I
Okay.
remember. But you have to remember that colors being off isn't a significant thing to me.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
fair.
people's skin color is green. Think about that.
Wow. That looks
So,
slightly, well, I mean, I look sort of green to most people, so that's not just you.
no idea.
Um, let's see. Rockstopper is asking, what is your all-time 10 out of 10 game, or at the very least, the one that comes closest to the video game perfection for you? Any genre, date, platform.
Dark Souls 1 would probably be the closest. It's a buggy game. It's a very buggy game, but anyone who's played Path of Exile in the earlier versions, I would rather have a game with bugs that has a really good kind of integrity and it sends itself and trying to fix them later rather than earlier, or rather than a more polished but shallower experience. So
Hmm.
Dark Souls 1, uh, it's a pretty fantastic game, and it's the best RPG I've played.
Oh, I didn't actually play that much of Dark Souls 1. I kind of, someone gave it to me on a controller, and I fucking hate controllers. So,
Yeah, I understand. Like, keyboard's a much nicer interface. PC Master Race.
yeah.
I think certain games, like, I actually prefer FPSs on a controller than a keyboard. Now, the reason for that is obviously keyboards are faster, but the slowdown of the joystick motion gives it a better feeling, even if it lowers the skill ceiling available to it. But it's just doesn't really matter.
Yeah. The next question is by Kiraima. Have you ever considered coaching players in PoE or esports in general?
No, that sounds like the most boring fucking asinine job I've ever heard of.
Would that be different than tutoring people, though?
Well, I don't want to tutor people to fucking play a video game. Like, I'm not tutoring people to be a liberal arts major.
Hmm.
That's
No, I guess it's just like a lot of people like combining things, I guess.
like I understand in certain ways. It's kind of like you get questions like that where people ask themselves like, well, would you want to design a video game? Would you
Hmm.
want to do all those things? And from a practical sense, you're looking, do you want to do it as a career element? If someone was like, oh yeah, I need help playing with this thing, can you help me get better at PoE? Sure, why not? Do I want to do that as a fucking job? No, piss off.
Yeah, that's fair.
That sounds that's how you no.
That's yeah. I don't know. Some people would, but anyway, we're
Yeah,
like,
some people would, and you know what?
yeah.
Fantastic to them. There's a need for it.
World 8 Night is asking, who's your favorite book series slash author?
I've never been big into books, to be
What?
completely honest.
That
That's
what? That I would not have guessed.
I think the reason is in a lot of storytelling. I wouldn't say that I'm not an imaginative person, but sometimes, like when I'm reading a story, or watching a movie, I'm not even the best movie watcher. I'm paying too much attention to the the actual structure rather than the universe that's trying to be portrayed through the structure of the writing. So it's like I prefer to read a science journal
Yeah.
than a fiction novel.
I really would have thought you would be huge into reading. I was expecting, like, let me fucking tell you this. Like a little smile coming across your face, but...
I read a book when no, it is... I didn't even read one like mandatory reading stuff in high school. You just paraphrase stuff and get A's. It doesn't fucking matter. No, so I actually do enjoy reading short stories, like novella style stuff, and that I can read because it's much more. There's much more of a descriptive nature, and it kind of establishes the setting, the point, in a much quicker. So if you're going to talk about like Frost, so stuff like that, I'll read. But books, no.
OS Gaming is asking, PT, what was your favorite game growing up?
Favorite game growing up? Zelda: Link to the Past. That's got to be what made me fairly obsessed with video games.
I don't even like any Zelda game. People hate me when I say that.
What was the first Zelda game you played out of curiosity?
It was a tree in the start?
Ocarina of Time.
Yes!
Okay.
That one. That was boring. People hate me when I say that.
What was the first game you liked?
Dune. Can't remember which one, but like probably the first Dune game. Let's see.
I'm kind of that's an interesting one to me because Ocarina of Time is hailed as one of the best games, and so from an introduction level, it's just kind of like okay, like I can see why I wouldn't enjoy it, and I prefer Majora's Mask to Ocarina of Time, but surprised that one of the earlier games you played because the newer Zeldas, well, actually the newest one apparently was good, but didn't play it. No, yeah, Dune's good, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's also not a PC game, which didn't help. Like, I don't know, I played on one of those, like, 3DS or something?
I had a PC before a console, and, like, didn't have Windows on the thing, like, .execute. I played a text adventure game called Hugo. Did you ever play a text adventure game?
Yeah, I used to play... What are they called? Like a specific name for them as well. Mud? Yeah, they're called Muds.
Yeah, but Hugo was... Ugh, that was a mess. But old PC games are special.
Yeah, a lot of old... And, oh, the bugs and the shutdowns. They're great. I think... I don't know if you ever played it, but did you ever play One Must Fall?
No, I don't think so.
It's like my favorite game of all time. Nothing will ever beat it. Like a Tekken style fighting game with robots, and you can customize the robots. It's perfection.
I am surprised robot games aren't bigger. Like that. Just like what was the Mech Warriors?
Yeah.
Is one franchise that, you know, it's been a big franchise here and there, but there's so much potential to the current audience of that. It's like, why don't we have more robot games? It's fucking robots.
Yeah, and it's like so easy to give the people what they want with, like, you know, upgrades and stuff like that. I don't know. Yeah, I agree. Don't go blind.
It's perfect for RPG elements.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then swapping out.
You don't even offend anyone because you can't go like brutal head shops. You just like, oh, some robot got its parts destroyed. Nobody gets offended at a robot getting destroyed.
Exactly. But yeah, no fantastic robot games that I can think of. Like Titanfall doesn't count. Fuck off.
Yeah, and don't know, like, were you ever interested in like Robo Wars and stuff like that?
Yeah, the television stuff.
Yeah, but they made a game as well where you had the same thing. You could like make your own robot and fight other people.
I didn't play the game.
It was really cool, actually. More robot games, man.
That seems like a weird adaptation into a video game, but no, maybe.
Nox's TDs is asking, do you like graphic adventure games?
Oh, No, like, trying to think. I find video games that are trying to drive their stories are like it's odd because I'm not huge into reading, but um, the stories are always just really shallow shit,
Yeah.
like, awful. And video games, admittedly, have a very hard time in doing a story well, but often what I see in terms of, your walking sims, your graphical novella games, stuff like that, that it's something that's been established that is pretty common in terms of a story element,
Yeah.
and then it's just shoved into video game format for the sake of it. And so there's no creativity in the game, there's no creativity in your story, you're just doing fuck all. And
Hmm.
yeah, if you're creative with it, sure, but I've never played a
Yeah.
creative one.
That's fair. I haven't really played around with them much myself. Chubby is asking, fuck, marry, kill, Mathel, cute dog, and GGG.
Who was the second one?
Cute dog, General So's chicken.
Oh, okay, I didn't hear that. Um, I've married Sao. He seems nice. Fuck GGG, obviously. So Mathil gets devault by kill.
Wow. You just killed off Mathel. Damn. Well, you can respawn, it's fine.
Exactly. He doesn't play in hardcore. It works.
Rich J Money is asking, what is your favorite smell?
Smell?
Yep.
Um,
You're colorblind, isn't like your other senses like super powered?
it's just in a fucking comic book.
Damn.
Coffee's nice. It's like even if you don't like coffee,
Yeah.
it's like um honestly just fried food. It has such a great smell. Yeah, like good fried food. You're walking by, you smell it, or at barbecue, something like that.
Cinnamon buns.
Fantastic. Cinnamon bun's pretty good, but that's just cinnamon.
Cinnamon's amazing.
It is amazing,
Glad
but
you agree.
like, I'm pretty sure I could just shove cinnamon in
See,
an oven
cinnamon
and
even
you'd be
makes
like
you happy. You're
cinnamon buns.
smiling. Look how good cinnamon is. You're smiling. So good. I love it. The next question is by Jolly Fox. If you could swap lives with anyone else's for a day, who would it be? Anyone on the planet.
Oh, Elon Musk, I guess. I'm literally just like, what's money, exposure, and could do whatever the fuck you want, and people would believe this shit you'd say. Elon Musk seems like he could dick around for a lot for a day and then enjoy the aftermath.
Oh. Nilki is asking, what is the meaning of life? You sort of look like you might have already figured it out too. Like I'm excited here.
You have no obligation in any way in your life unless it's been established that you've done so. It's whatever you want it to be. Have fun.
Oh no, I'm just confused. That was not what I was expecting. I wanted an answer. Damn it.
That's your answer.
No, I'm still just confused. So this has been around 2 hours. We have a closing question by Jolly Fox. If you were to describe yourself in terms of a keystone or a notable from Path of Exile, what would it be and why?
Wasn't the original question not a keystone but a skill gem?
No? But this is the question.
I read the Reddit AMA thing, and all I'm going to say is there was people like, I hope you asked the hard questions and you're a softball bitch. Just going there. It's a keystone? I'm trying to remember all of them. Unwavering stance.
Well, PT, thank you so much for joining me on the AMAs. Hopefully we'll see you back for the 3.0. I'm rooting for it. I think it'll happen.
Not happening.
Oh, it will happen. It's gonna happen.
No.
Yeah, you're gonna start to miss it. You're gonna miss all the people, and yeah, I think you're gonna be back.
No. All right, thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Thanks so much, dude. And special thanks to my mods, who's basically made it a lot easier for us. My mods do all the questions into a document, so we don't have to read chat because it's rather spammy and hard to get questions from. So big shout out. Thank you so much. Thank you, PT. and hope everyone enjoyed watching. Let's get a big shout out to PT in chat. Thank you, PT.